just the end of the week. Literally. I was just thinking that then. I was like, I bigged that up. Really high. The Weeknd's here. Like, where? He's not.
I'm sure he's got an album coming out or something like that anyway.
Maybe. Always does. You know what I mean? Plenty of Manchester United news to get into. Joined as always by my partner in crime, the Batman to my Robin. Actually, you know what, DJ? Who do you think you are? Batman or Robin? Have us two.
I think I'm more Robin, you know.
You reckon?
Yeah, you're very meticulous. No, you're very meticulous. You know, you're good at planning, organizing. You know, I'm just a good, supporting act. So I'll be.
I feel like, you know, I'm glad you said that because the idea of me being in the little green shorts is horrifying. Could you imagine?
I don't look good in shorts anyway. Period. I've got like flipping twiglet legs. So.
Yeah, me. Oh God, that would have been awful. That's a terrible image. What a terrible image to start the show off with, guys. Awful. Speaking of the Batman, though, as people file in, no spoilers. We were talking about this off air, DJ. Like, and I want to be careful how I say this because there will be some people that still haven't seen it. I'm conscious of, so I don't want to spoil it too much. But there was a scene yesterday that was released that was cut from the final film. What did you think of that scene?
So, actually, since we actually spoke, I've watched it maybe another 2-3 times just to get a feel. And I originally gave it a 5 out of 10. It was cool. It was great.
Yeah, I was surprised by that when you said that. You went 5 out of 10. I thought, that's harsh.
Yeah, it was all right. It was okay. I think whenever something's sort of like rebranded and done in a newish way, it takes a minute for it to settle with me. So I watched it a couple of times this morning and I bumped the 5 up to a 7. I think it's really good actually, and I kind of like the performance by this particular person in a particular, very very particular character. Hint. But it's gone up. I'll probably watch it again later as well, just to get a feel.
You're the kind of guy that does that though, because you've watched the film like 3 times.
Yes, I have. Yeah, I have. So,
and I like you. I watched it a couple of times. Glad they cut it from the film. Didn't think it was needed because that would have taken away. It was just unnecessary.
Yeah.
I love the look though. I think the look works because too many times recently they've done that guy to be like cool. You know what I mean? And he shouldn't be cool. He should be like properly grotesque. He's a psychopath. He shouldn't be cool. So I think that works. Anyway, guys, let's talk about football. Actually, no, let's not talk about football. Morbius as well. I was looking earlier on Twitter. The initial reactions to Morbius, horrible. Absolutely horrible. Oh, my goodness. So I'm curious, DJ, to go and watch it, to be honest now.
Yeah, they've got, and that's Jared Leto again. He hasn't really had, he hasn't had the best run. So, you know what? Maybe curiosity is needed here. Maybe I should go watch it as well, see what I think. Because you can only really judge something once you've seen it yourself, whether it's bad or good. You know what I mean? So it was like that first Venom film. It got slated by the critics, and actually, it was okay. It wasn't great. Right. It wasn't that bad. It made a load of money as well. So, interesting. Let's talk about football though, since that's what we're here to talk about. Bruno Fernandes is on the verge of signing a new Manchester United contract. Was reported by Fabrizio Romano yesterday evening. Manchester United are getting closer to extending Bruno Fernandes's always struggle with the S on the end contract. Breakthrough in negotiations came last week. The agreement is now at its final stages after talks opened last July. Tell you what, that's a prolonged negotiating process, isn't it, man? Manchester United want him as a key player for the future. The contract will be signed and completed in the coming days/weeks, confirmed as revealed yesterday. Romano continues, it's just a matter of final details to be sorted out soon. Bruno is happy to stay. Manchester United have offered him a longer contract with a improved salary. Let's talk about this salary. He's expected to more than double his salary to around £240,000 a week under the terms of the new contract, which will commit him to Manchester United until June of 2027. An announcement on Bruno's new Manchester United contract could follow after the international break. What's your initial thoughts on that news, DJ? I initially thought that there should be no players getting any contract extensions or brand new contracts. At this moment in time, we don't even have a manager. We don't have even a manager selected for the team, but actually giving it more thought, I think you want to kind of keep hold of your better players. So Bruno is, whether you love him or hate him, guys, Bruno is one of our best players in the team, especially one of our most effective. And you can look at the stats all you want. He's very effective when he gets going. So I think what they wanted to do is not have a situation where i.e. with the likes of Paul Pogba, where you got players running down their contracts, and essentially it becomes a little bit sort of like murky. So yeah, I'm all for a contract extension. I think he doesn't even earn as much as a lot of the players in the first 11, to be fair. So if anyone does need a bump up in pay, it will be Bruno.
Do you think he's worth £240,000 a week, though? I mean, we always talk a lot about wages at Manchester United, don't we? But I suppose, like you said, that the standard, shall we say, is so high at United in terms of that wage structure, that is he within his rights to be looking around going, actually, you know what? I'm contributing a lot to this side here, and I'm not making as much as X, Y, and Z. Does he deserve that kind of financial package?
I think he does, to be fair. Since he's come in, he's been on fire. Obviously this season there's been a couple of games here or there where he hasn't really performed to the best, but no one really has. And I think if we're going to be measuring impact, if you measure his impact since he's come in, he actually has had a positive effect, positive contributions to Manchester United's first 11. So for everything that he's done in a time when we bought him, we were literally lacking so much creativity. We needed sort of like a new savior, if anything. And he came in and he literally carried the club between him and De Gea, they carried the club for a long time on their backs until we started signing a few more players to add to that kind of core group in the squad. I think he's well within his rights to be wanting around 240,000 a week. I think he deserves it. I also think that, and people may disagree with that, but I do think he deserves it. And 240,000 compared to the likes of what Rashford and such are on, it's not that bad. 240,000 is decent for him, for Bruno.
It's an interesting one. Bruno's always such an interesting topic. Yeah. He really is, because he's quite a surprisingly somewhat of a divisive figure when you discuss him amongst Manchester United fans. For instance, here Richard Welsh says he's bang average, not worth it. He can't play under a tiki-taka manager like Ten Hag. He's not a structured player. He's a freestyler, not worth paying him 240k. Mark Riley says this is good business, which again just goes to show, whenever you talk about Bruno, whether it's contract, whether it's his contributions to the side, whether it's how he affects the team's style of play or whatever, why do you think Bruno is such a divisive topic? Like, because for instance, this won't be the first time we talk about Bruno and his new contract, right? I'm sure on an upcoming Full View or something like that, there'll be all of us involved there. Yeah. KG will be there, Cam will be there, and talk about two polar opposites when it comes to Bruno Fernandes, right? Why do you think he generates that kind of response?
I think, I know why. I think it's more, I'm just trying to think. It's more so of, he has a few Achilles heels to his game. And those Achilles heels are kind of, very tactical things, like him pressing too much, not staying in shape with the rest of the team, or him, trying the Hollywood pass all the time. And I think the type of player he is, he's a high risk, high reward type of player. So you're going to get that with him. However, I do think under the right manager, you'll see a different version of Bruno. And I think that's why people are very divisive over him. Like, is he good or is he not? And I know there's all this stuff about stat merchants, but to get stats, you have to be doing something right in the first place. So, his stats across Europe, I haven't got them in front of me, but his stats across Europe are pretty good from the last time I looked. And he's up there with the best of the best in terms of number 10s in that creative role within the team. So I think if his stats are backing it up, he clearly has passion for Manchester United. He's not one of those players that's umming over the contract or where he wants to play. He's made it quite clear. I want to stay at Manchester United. I want to play at Manchester United. What more do you want from a player? Every player is... We're not going to have a perfect player. And even Ronaldo at the moment, in this time at 37, is not a perfect player just yet. Close, but not a perfect player. So all our players are going to have sort of things that they need to work on. Bruno is definitely going to be tactically and maybe structurally within a system. But otherwise than that, I think he's fully deserved of this contract. And I sometimes believe that a lot of the hate is from rival fans, not even necessarily our own sometimes. I think we blow it out of proportion. Like, Bruno is not the biggest of our worries at Manchester United. So, yeah.
I can understand both sides of it. And I know that's such an Owen answer to say. But I was already waiting for it. I can understand both sides. I can understand when people do say, like, in games where he's not playing well, it's not even worth having him on the pitch because he's just miles off it, right?
Yeah.
And he is constantly playing like it's the 89th minute and we're 1-0 down. He's constantly trying those passes where sometimes he doesn't need to necessarily try them. And I understand that. I mean, I'm not too much in that whole debate of, oh, he disrupts how we want to play. We play better without him. I think that's very debatable, to be honest with you. And, you know, I think you do have to kind of look at, you know, his statistics and stuff like that. It's like, whilst we're not in the Champions League anymore, and people say, see, but he this season got an assist pretty much apart from the last game in every Champions League game he played in.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
Exactly.
You know, he's been getting, I think he's created like the most chances in the Premier League this season still.
Yeah.
He still gets a ton of assists and he creates chances. I'm not in the camp of he's a bad player. I can understand why some people might say, but does he fit into maybe what we're trying to do in the future? Well, that's a bit of a separate discussion, but I'm of the mindset of you want to keep your best players at the club. And I don't think it's any debate that he's one of our better players, you know. This is an interesting point, though. And I've seen quite a few people saying this. Why are we doing this now when we don't have a manager yet? Could it, you know, what happens if whoever it is, Ten Hag, Poch, whoever, comes in and goes, actually, you know what? I don't really like Bruno. You know, what happens then, do you think? Or does that even happen?
That could potentially happen. You know, managers could come in and not really fancy Bruno in their first 11, and that's just how football is sometimes. But I think what Manchester United are trying to do is just sort of secure their prized possessions, their prized assets. So for most managers, I won't say every manager, but for most managers, they'll take a Bruno Fernandes, a number 10 in their squad because of his high output of what he can put on for his colleagues in the team. Like, he literally can assist. That's his job. He's an assist guy. That's what, and he chips in with the odd goal. We can. So I think in a general consensus, most managers would take a Bruno in. I think most managers.
I think most managers would, even if they thought, like, you know what, he doesn't play exactly how I'd want to play. Most managers would be like, I tell you what, I'm willing to try and mold him the way I want to play because, again, his record does speak for itself.
Exactly.
I would be shocked if, because I mean, I know people would be like, oh yeah, he wouldn't get in Man City side, but you can't tell me that like Pep wouldn't be like, well, I'll take him.
I think Pep would include him in. I definitely think Bruno would be playing at Man City's first 11. 100%. I think that.
It's a bold claim. What do you think, chat? Let us know in the chat.
I definitely think
he would. I think he would also. He would fit, I think, the way that Pep would want him to play. I think when you look at maybe a side like Liverpool, maybe he doesn't really fit into that kind of method. It depends. You know, it depends. But I think most managers would want him in their squad at the very least to say, because again, I think his record speaks for itself. I really do. Do you think though, should we even be rewarding players after the season we're currently having? You know, and that would be the frustration I think people have, is that people would look at where we are in the league. We're not competing for anything. The season's dead, as Pogba said. Not the club is dead to him. The season is dead.
Yeah.
Do you think we should be rewarding anyone after the season that we're currently having?
In all honesty, if I was part of Manchester United, I definitely wouldn't be giving anyone any contracts. But I think for players like Bruno, because he is like one of the best, probably one of the top 5 players at the club, period. You will make certain allowances and certain exceptions. You know, I think with him, that if Pogba wants to stay, you give these type of players the contract because they're our best players. Pogba, Sancho, Varane, you know, Bruno, Ronaldo. Those players I've just mentioned, then you will make exceptions for those players. Everyone else is not on their level, so you would then have to treat them slightly different. But I mean, if it's just securing his future, I'm not sure kind of how long he had left on his current contract, but if it is to secure his contract, quite a while. Well, yeah, I think maybe it's one of those things where they're just trying to maybe spin some good PR as well. Why not? There's nothing else to play for. We need some good news. The Ten Hag stuff's trickling out. Bruno as well. Maybe United are just thinking, well, we'll give Bruno a new contract. We're going to do it anyway, so we might as well just do it now. So.
That was going to be my next question, because so his current deal actually expires in 2025. So he signed a 5-year deal in 2019 with an option of an extra year, hence 2025. So it's not a case of like, oh, his deal's coming up at the end of the season, the end of next season. His deal isn't coming up for a while. To me, it seems like a case of actually, look, we signed you to this contract, but we've kind of realized that you're far more valuable than the contract we signed you to. If anyone's earned it, then you probably have earned it. But again, his current deal expires in 2025. And people kind of forget this when it comes to Bruno, his age. He's 27.
Yeah.
So this is a 5-year contract extension. Is when the contract that he's going to sign expires, he'll be 32. Mm-hmm. So do you think this is like him, again, looking at it as this is probably my last big contract of this nature? Because the contract he's going to sign after being 32, is that going to be 240, 250K a week?
See, this is the thing. I think Bruno literally is the type of player that will put his eggs all in one basket, meaning he is really about Manchester United. I don't know what the board have said to him. I don't know what they've said to his agents. I don't know what type of good feel factors they're giving him. But he does seem really loyal towards Manchester United at this time. Like, he really does want to be here, you know. And I get that vibe from him. I don't get that it's any PR from him specifically.
Which is a rarity in this squad, let's be honest.
Exactly, right. And he does have that passion and hunger. And do I think he can be sort of, you know, nurtured a little bit more by a manager with more astute tactical awareness? 100%, I think he can. And I think he's open and willing to learn as long as he's included in the team. I think Bruno is that type of human being that will listen and try and do what the manager wants. Doesn't seem like he's a bad egg at all. I do think that, you know, by them giving him this deal, it is kind of like, in a sense, a lifetime deal now at Manchester United. So we're going to have Bruno probably to the end of his career, well, right until the tail end of his career. And at this moment in time, I wouldn't say that that's a bad thing. You know, I do believe he seems to me the type of player that might even move on into coaching eventually once it's all said and done. He does have that kind of thing about him where he might want to move on into coaching. So maybe they've got an eye on him, maybe coming into the coaching setup after his career is done.
What is quite interesting, as I mentioned before, according to these reports, this negotiation when it comes to Bruno, because this isn't the first time we've heard about his contract negotiation, that's been going on since July.
Yeah.
This has been a really long process, and the breakthrough comes last week. What do you think that breakthrough is? Do you think it's the case? Because you kind of touched on it before.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's a case of them saying, look, okay, because we spoke about this just a minute ago, who's the manager going to be? Do you reckon they've kind of said, look, this is probably who we're kind of looking at managerial candidates-wise? Do you reckon he has a good idea who it is, and that's how they get him to sign on the dotted line?
Potentially, yeah. I think, you know, again, prized assets at the club, I think they're going to be privy to more information than just your regular squad players. You know, I think the likes of maybe Pogba, Ronaldo even. You know, Ronaldo said that he's staying. Bruno, you know, and that was what, maybe last week or the week before? For now, he said that. Yeah, it could change. I know it could change, definitely. But, you know, Bruno has followed suit. Maybe they are privy to a little bit more information than the other squad players. Maybe, you know, I don't know, the powers that be have said, yeah, you know, this manager potentially could be coming in. What do you feel about that? Do you know what I mean? And Bruno's probably said, well, yeah, I'd like to work with that manager if he comes in. And it's kind of maybe prompted him to, you know, sign this new deal. How much was he on anyways? Because I remember seeing his wages before and it wasn't a lot.
I want to say it was like maybe 100, something around that sort of figure. Obviously, they reckon it's like he's probably like doubled his wages. So like 240, maybe. I don't think he was on like, you know, maybe 200. Maybe it was about 120. I don't know. Around kind of area, which
massive,
obviously still is a lot of money. But in comparison to some of his peers, Rashfords, it's really not.
Yeah.
Which is quite curious. But then speaking of that, so Paul Pogba, right? We've known he's got this contract offer from on the table since last summer. It's 400K a week. Like, even in comparison to Bruno's, that's significantly a lot more. If you were to compare them, would you say that Pogba is worth that much more than the Bruno Fernandes deal that he's going to sign?
It depends what parameters we're sort of, you know, comparing them at. Are we talking about the brand? Are we talking about Pogba as the brand?
Everything. Break it down for me.
I think Pogba as a brand is massive, you know. Adidas athlete, his name rings bells. He's a World Cup winner.
Do you care about the brand though?
Not me personally. I care about more just the on the pitch stuff. On the pitch, I think every footballer should just be judged on their talent and what they contribute. And weighing up the two, there's not much difference between the two. I think Bruno, if anything, is maybe contributing a little bit more. And he's done it over a more consistent period of time since he's come to the club.
Period of time.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I wouldn't say Bruno's worth what Pogba's that amount of money.
Oh, you're back. You're back. No, I can't hear you. You're muted. You're muted. You're still muted. Now he's gone. Well, DJ doing DJ things. I'm split. Wait a minute. And look at me. I'm not even set up for it all. It's all chaos. It's all chaos. DJ doing DJ things. That's the problem, guys. This is what happens. This is what it wouldn't be a United View stream, would it? Without it wouldn't be an Owen and DJ stream without DJ disappearing, doing his disappearing act. He should be a magician. We're talking about Bruno Fernandes being Magnifico, Portuguese Magnifico magician. DJ's the magician. Let me just reframe. I'm all over the place. Biggie Third says, is anyone at Liverpool on 250k a week? We go again. I tell you, it's a good question. I know certainly they don't have the wage structure that we do at Manchester United. Absolutely not. They definitely don't. I think that's a good question. I know that. Well, we know that Mo Salah wants was it like 500k a week or something like that? I mean, you can let me know. You can be my research team in the chat whilst DJ hopefully comes back. He's back. He's back. DJ being DJ. That's what happened. And, it was. What was weird about it as well is it was sort of you came back and then you were muted. It was very much like I don't know. It was freaky. I can't remember what you were talking about.
It was Bruno. Right? It was about Bruno.
The Pogba thing. Yeah. They're talking about that. Yeah, is he worth? Because in my opinion, whilst the Bruno brand obviously is nowhere near the Pogba brand, but in terms of how valuable they are on the pitch, you could argue that Bruno's way more valuable than Pogba on the pitch, especially in recent years.
Yeah, the stats, prove it. And I know everyone's, Bruno's a stat merchant, but as I said before, you have to do something right for there to be stats on paper. So. I think the eye test, Bruno, the eye test, some people aren't convinced. I'm convinced when it works, you would say, if you're looking at both of them on the pitch, that Bruno does seem more valuable.
Spaniard said, is Max winning the F1 this week, Owen? I tell you what, the amount of shit I got last week. The amount of people I've got messaging me on Twitter going, I'll be Owen in the mud, all that kind of stuff. It was, it was something. It was something last week as well. Yeah. Hopefully we'll move on. We'll talk about something else. Do you think Bruno works under Ten Hag? Because that's what people have been saying, isn't it? Like, how does he fit under Ten Hag? Ten Hag's playing a bit more tiki-taka. Is Bruno going to fit into that system, do you think?
I think he can. I do think he has the technical ability to. And I think for Bruno, I think it's just about simplifying his game a little bit. And I honestly don't think we've seen the best of Bruno at the moment at Manchester United. Even though he has contributed so much, I still think there's more to come.
We haven't seen the best of him?
I don't think we have. I think you're going to see more of a consistently
outrageous stats if that was the case.
I truly believe
first season, his stats were outrageous.
Exactly. And everyone's saying he was playing freestyle football, not really in a structure, not really in a... Do you know what I mean? Like, there was an element of freestyle to it, but I think if he's in a system that is going to... And if the system is built, say, around him, I think it's going to get the best out of him. I think his stats are going to literally be otherworldly, honestly.
It's interesting. If you had... What system do you think he's better off in? Do you think he's better off in a system under Ten Hag or a system under Poch? Which manager or coach gets the best out of Bruno, do you think?
Ooh, I think under Poch, we'll see his performances very similar to how they are now.
Spurs.
Yeah. I think Bruno would be very similar to how he is now under Poch. I think maybe more goals, I'd say maybe under Poch, but I think with Ten Hag, it's kind of an unknown commodity at the moment. It's very unknown. I'd like to think that he would be better, and I think he would be, just based off kind of how what's been implemented at Ajax. I do think he might be a little bit better at that. I think he'd get a lot of more assists because it's about assisting and passing and, moving into space and, freeing up the channels and bringing the wingers forward. So Bruno's going to be in the box a lot more or on the edge of the box a lot more. So it's unknown. It's unknown. I would say if Poch does come in, let's say if it's Poch for argument's sake, Bruno will be relatively the same, I think. Relatively the same. I don't think there's a massive improvement if Poch comes in.
I think under Poch, we know pretty much exactly what his role would be. He'd be the standard number 10, like maybe Dele Alli, or whether it was Christian Eriksen. That would be his role. Like you said, under Ten Hag, it is a bit more unknown. I think Ten Hag will be a bit more demanding of him as to what he would expect. I don't think Ten Hag would try and accommodate him, as that were, and be like, if he doesn't fit, I think Ten Hag would say, look, you've got to fit into my system. It's not a case of me fitting the system around you, which is arguably, Bruno was successful under Ole, because Ole kind of just said, look, kind of do what you want. I'll do the system around you. You're doing stuff for me, and that's how it works. So that's quite interesting. And Blue Dabadee says Mancini might be available. What about him? Oh, did you see that last night, DJ?
I did.
That was madness. Absolute madness.
I wouldn't be having Mancini anywhere near Manchester United. Sorry.
Well, I wasn't anyway, to be honest, in general. I think a lot of people are quick to forget, like, he was the Man City manager that won the title with Aguero's goal last day of the season. I like everyone. Like, that's just that for me. No.
No.
In general. But last night, I said this on Twitter last night, at Mr. OWEN. I'm trying to tweet more, DJ.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be more.
Tweet more.
I do like maybe one a day. But I'm trying to be a bit more. I'm trying to do a bit more. But I said last night, nobody can convince me that football isn't the greatest sport in the world. Macedonia, I think, had like barely any shots in that game. 92nd minute, away from home, in Italy, they scored to knock the reigning European champions out of World Cup qualifying. How crazy is that? That's sport, that is, at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, that's theatre. That's definitely drama.
That's
theatre. That's legendary. Those players are going to be known forever now. They're going to be immortalized in their country, literally, for that. And that's why we love the beautiful game. Anything can happen.
Yeah, it's amazing. And just like, it's wild because Italy don't get to their second consecutive World Cup. They won in Russia in 2018. The last time they played a knockout game at the World Cup was when they won the World Cup in 2006. They'll have to wait until 2026 to possibly play another knockout game. Imagine a country like Italy, with the history they have in football, having to wait 20 years to play crazy. Another knockout game at the World Cup. That's madness.
That's absolutely
And in the middle of that, they won the European Championships.
Yeah, exactly. You can tell that it's a failure, definitely a big failure on their part. Do you know what I mean? And they're not living up to their expectation at all. So but no Mancini for me, guys. None. No.
But also, I must say this: a lot of people obviously reveling in it because of obviously Italy beat us in the final and that kind of stuff. It still doesn't change the fact that we lost. They still have that trophy and we don't.
Exactly.
Not to bring it down, folks, but I saw a lot of people like, see Italy, in the mud and all that kind of stuff. But let's face it, we'd rather have the trophy. Okay, we'd rather have the trophy, in my opinion. Anyway, let's talk about the latest when it comes to the managerial search, DJ. Because according to Chris Wheeler from the Daily Mail, Manchester United are under pressure to make a decision over their new manager, with leading candidates Erik Ten Hag and Mauricio Pochettino attracting interest from other clubs. Manchester United sources said on Thursday evening that the process to hire a new manager is running to plan and is well progressed, but indicated an announcement could still be weeks away. As I mentioned, it's early days, not catching feelings just yet. Now, when it comes to Pochettino, Mauricio Pochettino is believed to have spoken to John Murtough some weeks ago and will be interviewed again soon, but he is waiting to hear back. But this is what is interesting about Poch. This comes from Mark Ogden. PSG would rather force Manchester United to pay a sizable compensation fee for Pochettino than allow him to move to United for nothing if his contract in Paris is terminated first. The Glazers are reluctant to spend a substantial sum on a compensation package, rumored to be about £20 million for everyone to be sort of sacked or bought out of the contract. Now, United would need PSG's permission to speak to Pochettino on a formal basis, but if any such request is granted, it would signal the French club's willingness to part company with him and diminish their prospects of securing a compensation package. He's going to reportedly rumored to be waiting till the end of the season to find out his fate anyway. Potential departures of Leonardo and a number of high-profile players have raised the prospect of him remaining in charge to oversee a new-look squad. If Leonardo is replaced and PSG look to recruit younger players to bolster the squad, sources said Pochettino may be asked to stay at PSG to oversee this transition. Does all of that kind of stuff that surrounds Pochettino there, right? You know, PSG might not want him, but they don't want to sack him because it would cost a load. They'd rather United buy out his contract, which is a lot of money. Plus, even if that happens, that's going to have to wait till the end of the season anyway, because they are going to win the title and players might be leaving, executives might be leaving. Does all of that chaos almost ruling him out, do you think, of just United going, look, we need something pretty quick and less complicated than that?
100%. I don't want to say never. Like, you know, Poch still might get it, but I just think let's just stay away from all of that mess. PSG obviously want us to spend money just to take their manager out. Obviously, compensation, 20 million. Yeah, like...
That seems weird.
I just think we are known for messy transactions. Let's just please stay away from that. If it is a little bit more easier to go for Lopetegui or however you say his name, I forgot how you say his name. Lopetegui, that's it. Or Ten Hag, then do so. I just think it's just so messy to get into bed with PSG right now. I think we don't need it. We've got our own PR and our own stuff to sort out. There's no point messing with PSG and then it gets dragged out all over the summer. Plus, I'm hearing Ten Hag's got some suitors as well.
Got to get onto that.
May need to, yeah. I'm jumping ahead. I've got your notes right here as well.
Oh, mate, you're all over the format. But the interesting thing is, though, when they say that, is that so any Pochettino decision would have to be at the end of the season, because as I mentioned, they are going to win the title in France, but you know that's still got to happen. There's a lot of uncertainty, not just about the coach, but about Mbappe. Rumors about Messi wanting to go back to this new look Barcelona as well. Leonardo too. All that's going on. Plus, they're going to win the title and all that kind of stuff. So any decision when it comes to Poch is going to be maybe at the end of June. I mean, we're in March now, nearly April, but is that too late for United? Do we need to be doing something or putting certainly some stuff in place now or in the next couple of weeks? And again, the fact that we'd have to wait so long and pay the money, does that effectively rule him out?
It probably does. It probably does. You know, we need a manager in as early as possible. We have the biggest rebuild probably in our history coming, and we have a lot of players maybe leaving. So we're going to need a manager to oversee that. And I've never been a fan of the club in itself taking control of transfer windows and identifying players, especially when there's no concrete manager in place. So I think Poch is now, it's very complicated, it's very messy. I wouldn't want to get involved in that. Honestly, I wouldn't want to get involved in that. They'll still probably interview him just to make sure, do their due diligence and all that stuff. They might want to know the ins and outs. But for me, just on face value right now, Poch is too complicated to deal with right now.
I think it's all of that's a massive stumbling block. I really do. I think if you're going to do a list of pros and cons, and they might have these pros that we saw in those reports where it said that they think that, his experience in the Premier League and all that kind of stuff. But I think if you look at, if we were going to get him, we'd have to pay a lot of money. And of course, the Glazers care about that. Of course they do, right? Also, as well, if we're going to have to wait till the end of the season, PSG aren't making a decision till the end of the season. We don't have that time. Like you said, we've got so much else we need to do. Yeah. We just can't afford to be like, okay, we're just not going to do anything for a couple of months then because we want this guy. I think that there are other options available to us. And as I mentioned, I would support, I'd be happy with Poch. I'd be happy with Ten Hag. But that, like you said, just the complicated nature of that versus Ten Hag's apparent sort of smoothness, shall we say? And I'm not talking about his head. His smoothness in terms of the compensation, in terms of the relations with Ajax as well. That just seems easier. And I know easier isn't necessarily better, but when you've got so much else to do, you'll settle for easier just to focus on the other stuff, in my opinion.
Yeah. And as we were saying, sorry, in a couple of last shows, there's not a massive difference per se between Ten Hag and Poch. So you could go for someone
Ajax. He was not having it.
Yeah, he has a clear distinction that Ten Hag is the better manager. I tend to still think that they're quite closer than people are making out, but Ajax will know more than us, obviously. But I just think that go for Ten Hag, it's the slightly easier route. I think it's only like a 4 million maybe compensation fee to pay.
Something like that.
Yeah, which is breadcrumbs to United. So do that and then get him in as soon as you can. Maybe not officially, because obviously he's still got things to do, but unofficially, you get him in, and then he can maybe start planning. That'll be his homework when he goes home.
And I think that's the difference. Is that like, because some people will say, well, you're saying about Poch, so that'll be leaving it to the end of the season's too late. But we know that an announcement's not going to be made about Ten Hag until the end of the season. But you do get the impression that kind of unofficial agreement can be done way earlier with Ten Hag as opposed to PSG. I don't even think PSG would be willing to discuss it at this point. Like I said, they've got their own stuff going on. So they're like, we're not really interested. Whereas I do feel like, again, the Ten Hag deal is certainly easier to do at this point. Speaking of Ten Hag, though, Chris Wheeler from the Daily Mail has said that Erik Ten Hag is known to have spoken to 2 other European clubs that regularly play in the Champions League, and a firm offer from one has been given to him that interests him. How much does that worry you, DJ?
If that's true, it worries me quite a lot because, Poch hasn't, as we were just discussing, Poch's situation hasn't made it any easier to go get him. So the one manager that you think could come in and create, and look, I've seen fans on social media already doing their Ten Hag teams. What's Ten Hag's first signing going to be?
Yeah,
we're on
I love all that.
Yeah, we're on the Ten Hag bandwagon at the moment. But as I said, there's going to be loads more twists and turns to this, and this is probably something that is a big twist. I think, it just depends how United sold the project to him. I still think Manchester United is, if not the biggest club in the world, and to get us back as a footballing dynasty, to get us back winning trophies is a massive achievement. Like, it'd probably be the biggest achievement in football, in world football at this moment in time. And if Ten Hag wants to associate his name with that, then he will pick United. I just think it depends who these other clubs are and kind of what they're offering him. I think United, we offer stupid wages anyway, so he's going to get paid handsomely if he comes to Manchester United anyway. So it must not
play
be
hardball over the wages. After all, what do they do? They go, I say, what? No, we're not going to go above this. Okay, Eric.
Hell no.
Can you imagine? Oh, can you imagine
that'd be crazy.
Oh, what's interesting though is that, so what teams do you think that could be? 2 sides. I mean, this is just pure speculation, folks. But what teams do you reckon that could be? I was trying to think of this.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I'm not sure who it could be.
I've got it could be.
I'm saying one might be Juventus. I'll throw Juventus out there. You know why? Because they're what, 4th?
Yeah.
Allegri, he come back, but it's not really worked out. They've got a rebuild that's going on. They've sort of removed a lot of the older. They're removing a lot of the older players. They're having a bit of a rebuild going on. They're in the Champions League. All that that's an interesting proposition. Who else? Look, maybe Real Madrid. Throw that one.
I was going to say that. I was going to either say Real. It could be Real, maybe one of the Milan clubs, or maybe Dortmund.
I think, for me, if it was, and this is going to sound like, a big time Owen, but if it was, say, someone like Dortmund or whatever, then I wouldn't be as worried because I feel like, if you've got a job offer from Dortmund or United to be the manager, not as a player, but the manager, you're probably going to go to Manchester United. It's those sort of bigger clubs in the Champions League that I'd be like, because I didn't even know, if you're the Ajax manager, I understand going from Ajax to Dortmund is a step up, but that's not a huge
It's not a huge step
up.
Yeah, and no. I think Ten Hag at this moment in time, he's trying to get one of those A-listing teams, So Real, United. Let's just hope United are gonna just do what they need to do because they don't want to, and United don't like being embarrassed, so we don't want to have egg on our face. So they're gonna need to do something.
We're talking to other people.
Early
days.
Yeah.
Early days, folks. Don't catch feelings.
Yeah.
Considering that low compensation fee, though, could literally a club, again, like a Real Madrid, say, because they're still in the Champions League, but, considering the loss against Barcelona last weekend, who knows what's going to happen with Ancelotti at the end of the season?
Yeah.
Could be a case of Real Madrid just sort of sweeping in, going, look, 4 million compensation fee. Yep, pay that, boom, done. Could the deal get done that quickly? And then United are scrambling around going, what do we do now?
Yeah, that could actually happen. Real Madrid have always been able to offer, the glitz and glamour. You're going to have access to some of the best players in the world if you get given the job. Everyone likes to go to Spain on holiday. Spain's nice, warm, sunny. It's just a lovely country to go to.
They'll sell it to him. Though. Got to be careful with that heat.
Right, exactly. But they will sell
Manchester.
That to him.
We don't get sun. Nah.
And that's the thing. I think don't get me wrong. I think United and Real Madrid are 2 massive projects. However, United comes with a fuller rebuild, so I'm guessing there's going to be some movement behind the scenes in terms of backroom staff and and all the major players behind the scenes at United, like the board and stuff like that. I still think that there's going to be movement on that. It depends what Ten Hag wants. He could go into United and have a full-scale rebuild, be part of something brand new, because it's going to be a brand new thing. Or he can go to Real Madrid, where they still they still got Champions League football, sunny weather every day, and you're going to have access to some of the best players in the world. So it depends what Ten Hag wants. It depends if he wants that challenge of going to Man United and being the guy who will be immortalised in history to win a Premier League after Sir Alex Ferguson. He will literally be immortalised. Can he do that? I can see it in the future, the Ten Hag stand. I can see it actually happening. I can see it happening.
That's a big statement, that.
I can see it happening.
If that's not going to get clipped when he's sacked in October, I could see the Ten Hag statue and stand, all that kind of stuff.
It feels
Clip
different.
I'm
joking.
Oh, don't even start it. It feels worse. That's the next one, isn't it?
It feels worse, yeah.
As KG said, I tell you what, I've not, like, KG's made me laugh on these streams and stuff like that, but the most I ever laughed was when he said we were playing diarrhea football. He said we were playing diarrhea football. He said you just couldn't, in terms of the chances that we were conceding, you just couldn't control it. And I honestly, I was thinking, I tell you what, I might have to leave the stream because I was crying. I was like literally crying. And I was in, with the full view, all of those boxes. I was in my top box. I was just like that. There's nothing funnier. There's nothing funnier than that.
KG, man. Big up KG.
Honestly.
Man. KG's crazy.
It was so funny. Diarrhea football. I should have brought it up because it's going to make me laugh now. And I understand like the process here, managerial search, not diarrhea. I understand the process involved of they're going, look, we're in a process, all that kind of stuff. But do we also need to be proactive here? Do we also need to think maybe, this is tinfoil hat even for me, but could this be a little bit of Ten Hag going, look, I've got other offers. Okay, you might have to wrap this up quickly. Is that a possibility too?
Possibility. Could be some gamemanship. Maybe Ten Hag I know he said he's, focusing on Ajax and stuff like that, but he's going to want sort of a resolution to his future quite quickly. No one really likes their future up in the air. And, we've had the talk with him. Apparently he was really impressive. United are very impressed with him. We're going to be talking to our other candidates. That could have been yesterday. That could be today, Owen. That could be on Monday. We just don't know. I just think United, if they're really serious about him and if he is the one that they want, they need to move quickly and be aggressive with it. That's what I think.
Given that we're probably not going to have Champions League football too, how much of an issue is that when it comes to attracting him possibly as well? Because again, the report said that these are two clubs that are in the Champions League as well. So say they are, hypothetically, Juventus and Real Madrid. I understand United's a big job. I understand the rebuild there. I understand the possibility to make yourself a legend, all that kind of stuff. But they're two clubs, big clubs, that are in the Champions League versus Manchester United, who, Europa League, or maybe even worse, Europa Conference League. Like how difficult is that when you're coming to convince him? Do we have to also then say to him, look, we've got other stuff going on, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I do think the Champions League thing is a stumbling block. I know we're not necessarily out of it straight away just yet, because we could still, in some form or way, maybe get fourth. I don't know if it's possible, but maybe we're still not off the cards just yet. But I would definitely think that it'd be difficult to attract, top managers, especially if they've got other offers from some of, Champions League elect kind of thing. So again, it's just, to be honest, I think United are really quite crafty in how they sell their project to, because I'm surprised sometimes at the players that we've got. I'm quite surprised, like, oh, okay, how did you turn that around? How did you spin that? But I think, as I said, if United do want this man, they need to move quickly, because there can be a spanner in the works here. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if we saw Ten Hag is in negotiations with Real Madrid. Like, it wouldn't surprise us, because this is just typical Manchester United. They drop the ball all the time. So let's just see kind of what happens.
You know what I did find interesting, and I don't mean this to be poking the bear. I don't mean this to be a shit stirrer and all that kind of stuff.
Are you sure?
But, obviously, that people calling Poch is a puppet. He's a puppet, and we were sort of saying before, like, what does that even mean? Like, where's the evidence that Poch is a puppet? He does what the board tells him to do. I think most managers kind of do. It's their job. Yeah. But in one report, and I wish I had it in front of me, but I saw this yesterday, saying that part of the thing that United really liked or found encouraging in the Ten Hag interview was that in the Ajax structure, he's just the coach of the first team. He coaches the first team and looks at developing people that come in and all that kind of stuff. But recruitment and outside affairs are kind of left to those other people, whether it's Overmars or Van der Sar and all that kind of stuff. And they like that. And I was looking at that and going, so you're saying that basically he coaches with the players that he's given and all that kind of stuff. And I went, I don't know. That sounds a bit...
That sounds
puppety.
Puppety. Yeah, it does.
I'm not having a go, but I'm saying that that's how most clubs realistically work nowadays. Yeah. But I was just looking at that going,
it's a bit.
What are people going to say about that?
Yeah, and and that's the thing. I think maybe that's just something that he prefers. I think if his job description is to coach the first 11 and that's it, I think it's easier for people to sort of get on and do what they need to do. I think when you start sort of like crossing wires and people stepping on other people's toes, people pitching in with this idea, but actually that's not even your job to have that idea or have that say. I think that's when, the saying too many cooks can start, appealing to Man United, applying to Man United, sorry. So I think, I honestly don't see a problem with people having their designated roles and sticking to their designated roles. I think that is best for everybody. So the fact that Ten Hag likes that, I'm not really mad at that. I think that's good, especially if you want to create structure. Structure is everybody pulling their weight and doing what they've been drafted in to do. And so, I think for me, I have no problem with Ten Hag just solely focusing on the first team.
And that was my point when it came to Pochettino in the first place, is that, and Imran kind of says it here, that's the modern structure. The director of football decides long-term of the club and gets a coach to implement that strategy. That was my kind of point, is that I don't really understand that whole puppet kind of thing, because that's how football clubs work, let alone that's how business kind of works. And if you're in a situation where you're constantly having to push back because you don't like what those above you are doing, then you're probably not right for that role, because it should be a smooth kind of situation. It should be a smooth flow. So, I just find that odd. And that's not like me defending Pochettino. Like I said, I just feel like that's how football works.
Yeah. I think the puppet label's used when there are clear sort of, inconsistencies by the powers that be above the manager. So, for example, when and I'm not calling Fergie a puppet, but the summer we signed, Michael Owen, Obertan, and was it Bebe? I think.
Oh, Bebe. I saw him score a free kick the other day. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter. It was unbelievable. He's still playing in La Liga.
He's still playing?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a rocket. And I did not see that for Manchester United.
Wow. Yeah, but I'm just that window. Michael Owen, who was coming off a really bad knee injury, a couple of knee injuries.
And relegated.
Yeah, relegated. And then you had Obertan and Bebry, who were very unknown. That sort of window can't stand now. If that window happened in this, then they would say the manager, you're a puppet, because the manager should be demanding a certain quality from his director of football, what we need for the team. Those guys weren't quality players. So I think that's when the term puppet gets used a lot, but I think it's a throwaway term now, isn't it?
Yeah. Fat Thor says only 90 likes. Yes, exactly.
Well, what's going
Smash
on,
a like
guys,
on the like button. Come on. It's Friday. Enjoy yourself. Smash a like. Let your hair down.
They just walked in here with their trainers on, mud on their trainers, walking over the United View carpet.
Furious. I'm not hoovering up.
I'm not
clean
hoovering
up for yourself.
Either. Yeah, come on, guys.
I'm not having it. Let's talk about Rashford briefly, because obviously Marcus Rashford not in the England squad at the moment. Nor is Jadon Sancho. It's Jadon Sancho's birthday today, by the way.
Yeah,
so happy birthday, Jadon Sancho. What a disgrace he's not in the England squad.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, Marcus Rashford, Mark Ogden has done a piece on him, and it says that one source says Marcus Rashford has developed a habit of, quote, becoming a ghost during games in which he struggles to contribute and becomes a peripheral figure while the action continues around him. That sound about right, DJ?
Does sound about right. But one source, I think the source could be the millions of United fans worldwide.
It doesn't really need a source. You just need to watch the game.
Exactly, right? So
I might be a source there.
We've seen this. It's not any news. Yeah, it's not any it's not any news to us that this is a thing.
No.
I think it's just no news. That's a no news headline for me. Like, we know this already.
Yeah. Sources say Rashford's not playing very well. Go. Well, yeah. You should source your telly.
Yeah, exactly, right? So you might as well have named the source. We wouldn't have been. Yeah, it's no secret. Like, you know what I mean? But
source,
it's
my
true.
Samsung TV. There you go.
Exactly.
That's the source.
It's true, anyways. You know, he's been a passenger for some of these games, and you know, watching Rashford over the season, you know, when it's not quite working out on the pitch, he tries a little bit harder, but then when he tries harder, it complicates his game a little bit more, and then he makes mistakes. And yeah, I just think, you know, downtime for him will be good.
This is quite interesting, though, because he continues. This is where it gets better. Mark Ogden says, Rashford has been unable to spend a prolonged period of time working on his fitness due to Manchester United's busy fixture list since returning. And Ranić believes that improving his match fitness is a crucial factor in helping the player stop drifting out of games. Rashford's absence from the England squad has given him an opportunity to work on his form and fitness at his club. According to sources, again, his disrupted campaign is largely down to his lack of pre-season preparations following his shoulder operation. What do you feel about that? Because, look, I get it. He didn't have the pre-season because of the shoulder thing, but like, he's been back for a while now. You know, like, pre-season is what, 6 weeks? And I know during like 6 weeks or whatever, you do just work purely on fitness or whatever, but you can't tell me between, when did he come back? It was like October. Might even be earlier than that. You can't tell me between now, October, and nearly April that like, I'm not fully fit because I didn't have a pre-season. I understand fine margins, but that's a bit much, is it?
Yeah, that is a bit much. You know, I think the excuses are coming out now. I do, but I've seen Rashford actually doing sort of like extra training. I've seen clips of him doing extra training and doing extra training sessions and stuff like that to get himself sharp and be ready for games and stuff like that. So I think it's just the excuses coming out. And yeah, I think Rashford, it's not even a big secret that he's played poor. And for me, I think as sooner the end of the season comes for him, the better. He can just have a break, you know, get himself fully fit, prepare for a pre-season, or have a full pre-season then. So let's see if it makes a difference. It should do. And yeah, he can just try to go again for next season.
I think it's weird as well because this is a guy that also was expected to be out. I think it was until like November or something like that. And he was so fit. He came back early. He's miles ahead of schedule, you know. So you can't also go, he was so far ahead of schedule when it comes to his return and then go, he needed a pre-season. It's like, no, you were saying that he was in really good shape previously. Exactly. That doesn't really add up. And I think, and I don't mean to like jump in on Rashford or anything like that, but I do think at this point, you do have to have some form of accountability. If you're not playing well, you have to look internally. And that's not just even in football, that's just in life. If you're not doing well in your job or whatever, you always have to look at yourself, right? And we've seen so far, like after the City game, the coach isn't playing me. Oh, it's because I'm not playing in this position. I've been playing all of these different positions. It's because I'm in and out of the side and I haven't had a pre-season. That's a lot of different excuses to deflect rather than looking internally. You know what I mean? And what do you think he needs to do at this point? Is it just a case of, look, just get to the end of the season, mate? Start again next year. Yeah,
I think he needs to do that. You know, there's been a lot of sort of like bad press and, you know, he's had to deal with a lot of hate and a lot of abuse. For me, I think he just needs to take himself out of the limelight for a while and kind of just get back to it next season. You know, we're coming kind of close to the end of the season. I think, you know what, if he can be more of an impact player towards the end of the season, then great. I think that would be good for him. But you know what? I will give him this though. He's not, out of everyone making excuses, he's not actually making excuses for himself. You know, he'll come out and say, I am playing rubbish. I'm not playing good. He will say it.
But you say that, but all of these reports come out of that are saying, like, you know, sources say, you know.
Yeah, I think he would. I think he would have liked to play.
Do you think he should just do an interview and go, look, no, it's not because of the coach. No, it's not because of pre-season. No. I'm just playing shit, you know, and I'm working on it. I'd rather him do that, to be honest.
Yeah, but I've kind of read between the lines, you know, when he's been doing sort of his after-game posts when we've either lost or we've not performed very well. He's kind of basically just said, yeah, we're just not performing to a high level. I'm not performing to a high level. Whether we want to talk about pre-seasons or not or whatever, it doesn't really matter to me. It's just, you're just not performing. That's what's happening. You're not performing. So, you know, I think until the end of the season, maybe a few sub-appearances here or there, be an impact player as and when needed. But I do think he needs to take a step out of the limelight for a bit.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't mean it to like dunk on him. I just think that, those things that have been coming out, coach, position, in and out of the side, and lack of preseason, they all might be part of it. They might be part of it, but I just feel like you just have to look internally and just go, yeah, they might be reasons, but all I can do to fix that is just improve myself right now. I've got to work on myself. That's the way that I can, fix that situation. Or DJ's frozen again. Oh, is it going to work? Oh. DJ's back to being DJ. This is the problem, folks. I remember back in the day where DJ would he'd always go around sort of 55 minutes. I think it's back. I think DJ's disappearing act's back. What do you think when it comes to Rashford, though, folks? As we wrap things up here, what do you think about Rashford's form? Do you think he should be, I don't know, out the side for the rest of the season? Do you think, as DJ says, he should be a bit part player? Do you think he should be a super sub, if you will? How does he fix this? Or does he just fix this by having his head down? Because, again, in my opinion, there are always reasons for why things don't work. There are always reasons, for decline. But you also have to look, I think, internally to say, yeah, it's not working out, but I have to improve. I have to hold myself accountable. That's the problem. Stephen says, Man United trying to cut off his internet, speaking the truth. Hey, possibility. Who knows, right? Imran says, Rashford PR got to DJ's Wi-Fi. Well, this is the thing. We said before, I saw some of your comments saying that, he's been spending too much time. DJ's been spending too much time around KG. And maybe that's the case too. Maybe he's been spending too much time around KG's Tesco Wi-Fi. This is a problem, right? Steffi Jenks says, he isn't even a super sub at this point. We care about him. He needs to figure things out. And I think that's the case as well. I think that he just needs to get to the end of the season. I really do. I think that's the same for quite a few players, but specifically for Rashford. I think he just has to get to the end of the season and say, you know what? This season hasn't worked out for me. My concern would be is that if he does have this full preseason, because they're kind of pinning the hopes on that, right? Aren't they? He just needs a full preseason. If he has a full preseason, then he'll be back to the Rashford of old. But what happens next year if he has this full preseason and he's still not up to form? And let's face it, he's not in the England squad right now. But if his form doesn't improve, he might struggle to make it to the World Cup, and that's a massive issue for him. So it's really now or never when it comes to Rashford. And again, I don't think that's a thing of, if he was at another club, he'd be playing better. I don't think that's an issue when it comes to, if he was at, wherever, and I don't know where he would go, but if he was at another club, he'd be so much better and he wouldn't be having these issues. I think these issues are just related to Marcus Rashford. I really do. So I think Rashford needs to probably have some accountability. I think that, again, he doesn't need to look at the coach and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure also that whoever does come in, whether it's Poch, who reportedly was a big fan of Marcus Rashford, or whether it's Ten Hag, which we don't know really his feelings on Marcus Rashford, I feel that he would probably, they'd have a discussion certainly and say, look, let's up it. That's the problem. Mortada says, KG blocked DJ from insulting his son. Possible. That's a real possibility. Santiago says, do you think fitness staff has some issues? Rashford and McTominay always come back crazy early and other players always seem to be injured. I think that the fitness department at United had been an issue for a while, and I still think it probably is an issue. I think in comparison to other clubs, it's an issue. I do think it's got somewhat better because I think how we've managed Varane's fitness since he came back from injury, and I think Ranić kind of spoke about that in a press conference, didn't he? Saying that we made sure not to bring him back early because we brought him back early. Well, he was brought back early before, and then he was out for even longer. We don't really tend to do that. We don't really see these situations that we kind of saw previously under, say, Ollie, where people were being brought on when they needed surgery, or they were they were out for like a week and they were reported to be out for several weeks, and suddenly they come back the next week and everyone goes, what's going on there? I don't think that happens as much, but I still think there's absolutely there's improvement to be made when it comes to the fitness department, certainly. Anyway, guys, look, I'm going to wrap it up here. I think DJ is lost. I think DJ is lost in the footballing darkness, as was, but maybe KG literally did cut his Wi-Fi. Maybe that's a possibility. Anyway, guys, look, I hope you have a great Friday, and be sure to smash a like on the like button as well. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, as we're on the road to 100K, and I'll speak for you again very, very soon. Peace.